Another preview, another week, and another day where Matt Canada is not the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then again, it is another week, despite it being Thanksgiving week, where the Steelers are staying in the state of Ohio, and we're going on down south of the border this time to play the Cincinnati Bengals for what all intents and purposes could be the start of a turnaround for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I mean that for real this time. What is going on, everybody? I am Mac, back with another video. Currently recording this the night before Thanksgiving. I wish yinz all a very happy holiday, safe travels, stay blessed out there. Stuff your face with a lot of turkey, stuffing, ham, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, whatever it is that you eat on Thanksgiving. And I'll tell you this right now, I am still feasting up on the fact that Matt Canada is gone. But in this video with my preview, I'm going to be a little bit more rational, and I'm going to sit down here and tell you what comes with that as well. But as always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is in the box below, as this is my Week 12 preview between the Steelers and the Bengals going at it. Yes, I still call it Paul Brown Stadium, just like how I call Acrisure Stadium Heinz Field. But yeah, the Bengals and the Steelers going at it this Sunday afternoon in Cincinnati. So obviously, you take a look at the Bengals. The biggest headline for them as they come in with one, as well as Joe Burrow is done for the rest of the season, as last Thursday night he tore a ligament against the Baltimore Ravens, which will require him to miss the rest of the season, which is very unfortunate for him. This is his second major injury that's kept him out for a good portion of the season, going back to his rookie year in 2020, where he tore his ACL. And he is now going to miss 14 games, at least, since that 2020 season. So in comes a guy named Jake Browning, who is Cincinnati's backup. Very limited experience. He put up a respectable 93.8 rating against Baltimore on Thursday when his number was called up. And to his credit, he connected with Jamar Chase pretty well, but it was a losing effort for the Bengals. So I really don't anticipate the Bengals to go full-on aerial assault for Sunday afternoon, because he's going up against this defense, which in 6 straight weeks we have allowed under 21 points. We've played wide receivers pretty well all year this year, so I really don't expect the Bengals to go full-on aerial attack. I expect them to go run heavy in this game, which is where Joe Mixon definitely has to have the bulk of the offense. Like I said, if you tuned into my Week 12 picks video, I said that at least 20 carries should suffice for Joe Mixon for the Bengals there, and that seems to be a strong suit for them, as it benefits them, because I don't need to sit down here and elaborate on it. I don't need to sit down here and explain it. We all know how the Steelers have done against the rush this year. We've done very mediocre against it this year, large in part due to injuries, as, you know, Quan Alexander being out for the season is definitely not going to help out. Cole Holcomb was our leading tackler. His absence is definitely going to be missed. And, of course, the big one, Cam Hayward, missed half of the season with his injury as well. But the Steelers did make a couple of moves prior, outside of Cam Hayward being reactivated. We did make a couple of moves prior to this matchup here, as Trenton Thompson was brought up from the 53-man roster. Brought back an old face in Miles Jack. He has come back to the Pittsburgh Steelers to help out that interior linebacking core right there. So hopefully Miles Jack can have a second chance in Pittsburgh, at least for the remainder of the season, and pick up and be that run stopper that we hyped him up to be last year. It just didn't work out, but we're giving him a second chance, it looks like. Eric Rowe, we brought in for safety as well. And then, of course, another guy named Blake Martinez, who actually came out of retirement with an own personal business of his where he was making, a pretty good name for himself. He was making millions for himself, brought him out of retirement, put him inside the interior linebacking core to pair him up with Landon Roberts. I feel like the run game can have a better game as far as the overall package with it goes, because the Bengals this year, their run game on paper looks really good. They definitely have enough talent to be a prolific run offense, but they're very up and down with their run game this year. It's been pretty inconsistent. As a matter of fact, me calling it inconsistent is actually putting it lightly. The Bengals statistically are 30th in the run game this year, but they do have their moments where they have shined with the run game, more predominantly, of course, with Joe Mixon. But at the same time, I feel like that's where we have to outmatch the Bengals, because like I keep saying, and I'm going to get into the offensive coordinator talk in a little bit, trust me, I just want to get through this preview real quick. But this is where we have to outmatch the Bengals here, as, like I keep saying, do what got you into this position to begin with, and that's run the ball. Jaylen Warren has outdone himself every week since that Titans game a couple Thursdays ago. He tore up Cleveland last Sunday for over 100 yards on the ground. Use what got you in this situation. Sure, Najee Harris has been quiet once again, but when you take into consideration that this Bengals run D is nowhere near on the same level as Cleveland's, and their defense in general is nowhere near on the same level as Cleveland's, that opens up the door for a ground and pound attack, run it down their throats, and just gash out that defense that they have and tire it out. Because I'm telling you right now, I don't trust Kenny Pickett. I still don't think he's the guy. But this has to be a get-it-right game for him from here on out. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to get into the OC talk in a little bit. I just want to get through the preview real quickly, okay? We have to be run-heavy here. Bengals don't do well against the run. We don't do well against the run either, so something definitely has to give for this Sunday. Pass rush has to come in strong as well. The Bengals' offensive line, they're always preaching down there that they're fixing it up and that it's way better than what it was in years past. Well, you have to go in there and test it, because I feel like with them having a backup quarterback in this game, much like how the Browns did last Sunday, where Kevin Stefanski played our defense and our pass rush real smart and real wisely, having the game plan be with DTR, get rid of the ball as quickly as possible to avoid a pass rush, because, that's why the pass rush was pretty much non-existent in that Browns game. I mean, sure, I still would have liked to see a pass rush, but that's just why right there. So I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of the same for what Zach Taylor is going to try and implement with Jake Browning in this game. So the pass rush definitely has to come to life in this one. The Bengals, like I said, as far as the defense goes, something else I should have mentioned, which I'm going to get into more. Like I said, they have not done well against the run this year. But, looking at them defensively, they still got playmakers. Obviously, it starts with Trey Hendrickson. He should play in this game. I believe he played last Thursday. I didn't think he would play last Thursday, but he did. He should play. He's always going to be the main catalyst as far as that pass rush goes for Cincinnati. Their interior linebackers definitely have some good playmakers, and they have a really good turnover ratio in the league as well. Of course, they got one of our former guys in the back in the secondary with Mike Hilton. He's got great communication. Other of their corners are getting time as well. So it's like, the Bengals, They are down Joe Burrow. Their playoff hopes have taken a massive hit. They're 11th in the AFC right now as far as the standings go. So it's like, yeah, they took a massive hit, but they still got weapons galore and physicality galore. Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, who's questionable this week, but I feel like he is going to play. Irwin is becoming, a big catalyst for that offense as well. So, I mean, they still have pieces. They still have a good amount of competition in them to make this a game, which is definitely why, if you're a Steeler fan like me, and you've been one for at least as long as I have, you can't go into this game thinking, oh, it's a backup quarterback. We don't got to worry about anything. These are games that Mike Tomlin loves to lose all the time. Okay? I don't need to sit down here and reiterate it. I don't need to put in a long diatribe about it. The Steelers have a terrible tendency to lose games like this because they overlook who they're playing and who's there and who isn't there. Okay? I don't care if Minkah Fitzpatrick is still questionable for this game. I don't know if Montravius Adams is uncertain for this game. You got to go in there and you got to treat this game just like any other AFC North opponent that you play. You got to be tough. You got to be physical. You got to go in there with a sense of urgency and knowing that you dropped one to Cleveland and you're staying in Ohio and the Bengals dropped one as well. You got to kick them while they're down, because the Bengals have been in last place pretty much the entire season. Cement that for them. Kick them while they're down. All right? And with my keys to victory, I'm going to make it short because I really want to get into the OC talk, okay? My first key to victory is the run game, obviously. Like I said, use what got you there with Jaylen Warren. And now, with a new opportunity and not so much of, knock on wood, a permanent answer for who's going to be calling the shots offensively, you got to get imaginative. You got to get creative with the run game as well. This is a game where, yes, we all want to see Jaylen Warren go off. We all want to see him strive. But how about Calvin Austin from Wildcat Place? How about some of that? Use what got you there to begin with, and use what got you here right now. Second key to victory is safe ball handling. I know that this sounds very cliche and like a no-brainer, but, considering Kenny Pickett has gone 6 straight games without throwing a pick, and the Steelers in general have been doing a good job with cutting down on the turnovers, but you got to be safe with the ball in this one. You cannot take anything for granted when it comes to the defense that the Bengals got, because like I said, they got a very good turnover ratio in the league, and you got to be careful with the ball. And finally, here's where I'm getting into it, people. Yeah, 13 and a half minutes into this video, and we're finally getting into the segment that I want to talk to about the most. New freaking playbook. The bald-headed stooge is gone. And Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan will be co-sharing the offensive coordinator duties for the rest of the season at the very least. Okay? These are not permanent options. They're interim options for right now, okay? But knowing Mike Tomlin, as he came out in his press conference on Tuesday, and he explained that he was the one who fired Matt Canada. Personally, I don't care who fired him. I'm just happy the bitch is gone, okay? But you got a new playbook, okay? Utilize it. Eddie Faulkner, our running backs coach, has been a decent running back coach. He hasn't been a great one. He's been decent, okay? Which tells me right off the bat that we're going to be run heavy for the rest of the season. That's what I like right there. Because who's been our best player offensively all season? It's been Jaylen Warren. Use what got you there. And with that, you also get to see if this can mean improvement, not just for the elephant in the room under center, but also for number 22, who everyone else is critical on in Najee Harris. Can this mean with Eddie Faulkner being in the spot placement now and with Mike Sullivan calling the plays himself and Faulkner just having the playbook with himself, does that mean Najee Harris can get on track and be that consistent runner that we've yearned for? Like I said, these two are not the permanent answers. I don't anticipate them to be. I knew right off the bat that when Canada was fired, knew right off the bat that Faulkner and Sullivan had to have something. Either one of them had to be involved something with the offensive coordinating positions. But as long as they're not permanent, and as long as they do not get promoted at the end of the season, even if they do well, I'm fine with them being interim. That's something that you got to understand right there. Okay? You have to go outside the organization. You have to get on the phones, which is, as I'm recording this video, which is what I hope Tomlin is doing and what he has been doing if he was the one who fired Canada. You have to get on the phone and you have to go outside the organization and look for a new OC. You don't just bandage it up by giving, your quarterback coach or your running back coach the offensive coordinating job, because look how it worked out for you the last couple of times. Randy Fichtner, terrible failure. And now Matt Canada, terrible failure. You tried that twice and it's failed both times. And the reason that Mike Sullivan is getting the play calling duties is because he has prior history with play calling, albeit it wasn't successful with him, but he has prior history with it. He used to do it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New York Giants back in the day. Hate to say it, but he got fired from each of those franchises. So obviously that tells me right there that he's not the guy right off the bat. He's not the permanent guy. But it's more to it than that. If it's a promotion with Sullivan and or Faulkner, that tells me the Steelers are just the definition of insane. Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. You can't keep doing that. You have to reach outside your comfort zone, and you have to be able to go outside the organization, which is a first step right there in firing Matt bleeping Canada. Get a load of this, guys, okay? Do you realize this is literally history for the Pittsburgh Steelers? All right? The players. How many players, not just on the team, but other players that we have played, said about Matt Canada? It's the same offense. It's too predictable. He runs the same plays every single play. Our defense didn't have to stack the box. We knew what was coming. How many players did that? I mean, Chooks Okorafor, for God's sake, got benched by Tomlin for calling out Matt Canada. That should tell you enough already. He was being heavily criticized. He was being called out. And not even just by players, by fans. I don't need to sit down here and explain that. You guys all know that. How many Fire Canada chants have you heard at Heinz Field? Remember the Pens opening night about a month ago against the Blackhawks? There were fans at PPG Paints Arena chanting Fire Canada. Then when the Pens went to Washington, D.C. to play the Capitals, there were fans in D.C. chanting that. There were fans in Germany chanting that. There were fans in England chanting that. So you know that this firing was warranted. Look at this stat right here that I'm posting on the screen right here. For those people that think, well, it's all Kenny Pickett, which, yes, like I said, I still don't trust Kenny Pickett. I'm not excited for Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's the guy. But how can you sit back, look at these stats right here, and say that Matt Canada was not part of the problem? Just listen to this. 44 games as our OC. 0 games with 400 plus yards. one single game with 300 plus passing yards. 2 games with 30 plus points. One of them were against the Bengals. That was last year. 7 games with 2 plus passing touchdowns. 27 games with 20 first downs or less. And 28 games with 20 points or less. You cannot sit back and convince me otherwise that Matt Canada was not part of the problem, because he was a big part of the problem. The sideline shots, the hitches, the drags, the passes that were barely past the line of scrimmage, always having his receivers run the same routes every single game. Okay? That is design right there, and it definitely warranted Matt Canada to be fired. That's how bad it was. And it's so bad, like I said, that this is a first in Steeler history. The last time the Pittsburgh Steelers made a mid-season change with coaches and or the front office, not even mid-season, during the season in general. The last time the Steelers made a move like this, 1941, 82 years ago. For reference, my grandfather, may he rest in peace, was an 11-year-old kid. My grandfather on my mom's side was 7 years old. My grandmother was about 6 years old. And my grandmother on my mom's side was 5 years old. Okay? 1941. That was the last time that the Steelers did anything like this. And it was because our owner at the time fired himself. Just let that sink in, Steeler fans. So this is why it was warranted, okay? It was that bad. Tomlin doesn't usually fire coaches. And it got so bad that I even kind of agreed with him in his press conference. I sat down, listened to his press conference, and you can tell that it was something that he really did not want to do, but he said it was, quote, necessary to do. And he wouldn't answer any of the reporters that asked him, further questions about it, because his main focus is improving this offense. Hopefully it is. I mean, I don't trust Tomlin as much as the next guy does, but I will give him credit for this. He finally did it. He fired Canada. But now, Tomlin, you got to do your part as well, which is get on the phone. Couple of candidates that I have at the top of my head, I got 5 of them pulled up right here. And I don't want any college coaches. No. Why? Because Matt Canada was a college coach. He got fired at Maryland. But my top 5 candidates for right now. Kevin Patullo, pass coordinator from Philly. He's under Nick Sirianni. Helped very much so in Jalen Hurts' development. I feel like he can work well with Kenny Pickett if he does come on over here. Name that Steeler fans should be very familiar with. Deuce Staley, one of our former guys. He was a running back for us for a little bit. He's currently an assistant coach down with the Carolina Panthers. He's a very good hype-up coach, and I think he could work very well with the run game. But he's really the only run-heavy type of coach that I have listed right here. All the others are pass-happy and QB-happy, and I think you know where I'm going with it. Zach Robinson from the Los Angeles Rams, under Sean McVay's system. He runs that West Coast offense type of system that the Steelers are trying to implement right now with Jaylen Warren and him getting the feeds and him cracking 100 yards. But you also got to help that out with Kenny Pickett because it puts a greater emphasis with his passing game. Zach Robinson, I feel like, would be a good candidate. Darrell Bevell from the Miami Dolphins. He's their QB coach. Helped out greatly in developing Tua Tagovailoa. He went from like looking like a bust to now looking like one of the best QBs in the league, and that definitely helped out with Darrell Bevell. I think that he could, help out with Kenny Pickett right here. And finally, probably the one that most Steeler fans want, Byron Leftwich. Like I said, last month he reached out to the organization saying, hey, I can help out with this franchise right here. I can help out with the offense right here. Granted, his last season down in Tampa Bay wasn't great, but he does have familiarity with Mike Tomlin. He was a backup quarterback for us, won a Super Bowl with us as Big Ben's backup back in 2008. And I feel like if he can get a second lease on life as an OC, where he knows the organization and he knows, how Tomlin functions, I'd be on board with it. So those are really my candidates right there and my replacements. But you guys have to understand something, okay? Yes, Matt Canada's firing was absolutely warranted and it was absolutely the right call. But here's what you got to understand. It is now sink or swim for Kenny Pickett. There's literally no more excuse with him. I feel like now we need to have more of a middle of the field type of approach, be aggressive with attacking that middle of the field, and Kenny Pickett has to pull his weight. Yes, in the past couple weeks, the designs were there for Matt Canada. The plays were there, but Kenny Pickett wasn't pulling his weight. It's both on them, and at least one of them are gone. Now it's up to Kenny Pickett to put in his contributions. Like I said in my Monday morning video, only Kenny Pickett can fix Kenny Pickett. Don't expect any drastic and dramatic changes overnight offensively with these two on the offensive side of the ball now. Only Kenny Pickett can fix Kenny Pickett. Yes, the offensive plays can be improved. The designs can be improved. But only Kenny Pickett can fix himself. It is not the offensive coordinator's job to have Kenny Pickett not dance around in the pocket, not stare down his first read, not overshoot his receivers, not continuing to not survey the field, continuing to try and force passes, not using his legs when his targets are being locked down, not looking at, being indecisive. I could list every single negative aspect about Kenny Pickett this year, but you get the point. He needs to pull his weight. He needs to be that guy. I don't trust him. A lot of other Steeler fans don't trust him. But now you're getting, temporarily at least, you're getting a new offensive scheme. And you got to make it work. You have to do your job as well. And that's really it right there. That's really all I got to say. I'm very happy and very excited that Matt Canada's gone. But at the same time, it's up to Kenny Pickett. As a matter of fact, I will even sit down here and say I would actually start Mason Rudolph for this game. Bench Kenny Pickett. If you're that serious about making a change with your team and your franchise as a whole, I would bench Kenny for this game and give Mason Rudolph his chance. Why? Kenny Pickett's scared to throw the ball down the field. We all know this. He doesn't see the field very well, or at least he doesn't try to see the field very well. What does Mason Rudolph do? Mason Rudolph takes shots down the field. We saw that in preseason. We saw that from the limited time that he played in 2019 because of Big Ben's injury. He was gunning them balls right down the field. Albeit he threw turnovers most of the time, but he was a risk taker. Kenny Pickett is not a risk taker. He plays it way too safe. Mason Rudolph plays with some heart, and he plays, to make a play. So if anything, give Mason Rudolph his chance. You guys remember that Monday night game in 2019, early in that season, where the Steelers played the Bengals? What did Mason Rudolph do? gunned passes down to Deontay Johnson, gunned passes downfield. I don't get that with Kenny Pickett. And I know that Tomlin said that, yeah, Kenny Pickett is the quarterback for the rest of the season. He said that in his press conference, which I disagree with. Okay? But if you're that serious about making a change with your team, give Mason Rudolph his opportunity. That's what I want to see. I want to see a brand new approach this Sunday. A new Steeler team 2/3 into the season. All right? That's what I want to see. Not only play with a fire under your you-know-where because you're going up against a division rival and you want to keep their head underwater, but do it because your offensive coordinator is fired and you have a new lease on life with the offensive side of the ball, which you have been deplorable with, to say the very least, all season. And that's what I want to see this coming Sunday with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You gave us an early Christmas present on Tuesday morning. Now, give us something to believe in the rest of the way. Better late than never. Sink or swim. It's up to you guys now. Make it count. Anyway, that is my preview between the Bengals and the Steelers. Let me know what yinz think down in the comments below. Personally, I can't wait. Not because of Kenny Pickett, but because of how this offense is going to look now that Matt Canada's gone. Maybe it won't be so bland anymore. Maybe we'll actually have a little bit more creativity. But we'll see this coming Sunday, and I'm actually excited for it. But that's all I got in this video. I am Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody. Go Steelers!